What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the KREF High School Huddle here on this KREFsports.tv YouTube page. Remember, like and follow all of our content on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and on Facebook as well. So plenty of ways to find us as we continue to keep you updated and keep you, let's just say, informed on what's going on in the world of high school sports, even during this off-season summer. That's Connor Pasby. I'm Grayson Singleton. Now, you may realize that we're releasing this 24 hours later than we normally do. You're going to find out why at the end of the show. So stay tuned with us as we're going to bring you a pretty cool surprise from one player that's committing to go play at the next level in his sport. So stay tuned for that. That's at the end of the show. But what we're going to start with today, last week we talked about team camps. Well, let's talk about the new team leaders. Coming up, we're going to talk about new quarterbacks in new places, but we're going to start with new coaches in new places. Now, most of our high schools, you know the coaches pretty well, but at 3 of our schools, there will be new head coaches at the helm. We'll start with Moore, where Cameron Bennett takes over. Southmore introduces Brett Jones as their new coach. Both of those are former Norman North assistants. And Travis Hill at Broken Arrow takes over after leading Muskogee to back-to-back state championship appearances, winning it in 2023 before losing it last year to Choctaw. So you've gotten to talk to 2 of these coaches before, Connor. Let's talk about Moore. They replaced the quarterback, which we'll talk about here in a second. And they also replaced the head coach as Cameron Bennett, the former strength coach and offensive line coach at Norman North, is now the new head man for the Lions.
Yeah, it's all about toughness with Cameron Bennett. Over 22 years of head coaching experience at East Central and Perry. He's been under Justin Jones, so he's learned a lot under him. And yeah, he's going to get his guys. They're going to be very physical. That's for sure. There's nothing about that for Cameron Bennett's team. Going to be replacing Malachi Miller, Hayden Stoll. Those are 2 big pieces that they lost from a year ago, but there's still a lot of excitement going to this year with Cameron Bennett.
Yeah, a lot of physicality that leads to, especially with Hayden Stoll. But Moore was a team that has been physical in the past. So this will just be something that they're just going to continue to build upon, a foundation of physicality that's already been there. They've run the ball well the last couple of years, and they stopped the run pretty well over the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, at the line of scrimmage, for sure. Defensive line, offensive line, they're going to be ready to go under Bennett. Maverick Gardner, he's going to be the new signal caller for them. We saw him a lot last year, not playing quarterback, but get involved in the passing game. He's just an athlete out there on the field, and that's going to help out Cameron Bennett to have a guy like that coming back.
Brett Jones takes over, the former special teams coordinator for Norman North, takes over at Southmore. Now, special teams coordinators, sometimes they'll bring some physicality, but sometimes they have other things that they hang their hat on. Usually those sorts of teams, very good situationally. Southmore coming off of a couple of rough years, looking to get things steady. What stands out to you about Brett Jones, the former Norman North special teams coordinator, taking over for the SaberCat football program?
He's a big culture guy and getting the community involved, and he's done that right away since he's gotten here to Southmore so far during the summer, during team camps. 7-on-7. Everyone's fired up for Brett Jones, and they're returning their quarterback, Taven Hayes. That's what helps out a new coach when you got your signal caller back from a year ago. And those 2 coaches, Cameron Bennett, Brett Jones, they'll be matching up in week 2. So there'll be some excitement going to that game. 2 coaches that were with each other at Norman North.
So, as you may have noticed, those are 2 guys that come off of Justin Jones' staff for the Timberwolves at Norman North. However, you may also have noticed this. He keeps both his offensive and defensive coordinators in tow. So that's big when, you start to build a successful program. Norman North had a rough start last year, but finished well. So you start to build a successful program. That means your assistants start to get purged. But your top 2 assistants, your offensive play callers, and your defensive play callers still in tow for Justin Jones and Norman North.
Yeah, that's huge for Justin. That just shows that, how great he is as a head coach. He's getting his other assistant coaches head coaching jobs at the next level, and he's done that with Cameron Bennett and Brett Jones. So Justin Jones, it just shows that he's a great guy to learn behind.
Yeah. And our last new coach for one of these schools is Travis Hill, who, again, goes over to Broken Arrow from Muskogee. Broken Arrow's just had a fantastic offseason, bringing in players from the 918 portal, and now you get over a new head coach who has led the Roughers of Muskogee to back-to-back state championship appearances. Also developed a couple of key players, Caden McGee, who's now playing at UNLV, the wide receiver, as well as Jamarian Ficklin, who is playing at the next level at Utah, the quarterback. So he's gotten a lot of guys to the next level most recently. Now he comes over to a Broken Arrow team that is rife with Division I talent and could be a sneaky team to upset the likes of Owasso or Jinx and Bixby and potentially overtake them for the top team on the east side.
Yeah, and he's filling in a great spot right now with all the talent that Broken Arrow brought back, the guys that they got to transfer in, the two elite corners that we've talked about so far on the show, and Stanford and Bryson Brown, those two opposite sides on the defense. They're going to be big problems at the corner spot. And Travis Hill has that championship pedigree. He's been at Broken Arrow from 2017 to 2019 defensive coordinator. So good spot right now for Travis Hill and the talented Broken Arrow team they have going into this season.
And he doesn't go far either, by the way. Still staying on that east side. He goes from 6A2 to 6A1. That's going to be the big challenge. But we went through this last week. But you look at the number of potentially excellent players that they're going to have. Quarterback will still work itself out, but you have a quality running back coming back. You got a 6'3", 200-pound wide receiver, Tayshawn Jones-Wade, who's going to be in his senior year. You got a left tackle that's a D1 commit, and then Samaj Stanford and Bryson Brown, two safeties back there, both 4 stars in the 2026 recruiting class that are, at least for Stanford, at least one is a blue chipper and the other is going to be a pretty sought-after commodity as well.
Yeah, Broken Arrow, it's a team that everyone's going to be keeping their eye on going into this year, the disappointing season they had from a year ago. And they just brought back some big-time playmakers. The quarterback, we'll find out week 1 who's going to be the guy. We mentioned earlier if they possibly work in both quarterbacks early on in the year. We'll see if they do that, but there's no doubt about it. There's talent on both sides of the field for Broken Arrow.
Jeremiah Satimba, who is the incumbent starter, and Kason Delgado, who comes over from Edmond Santa Fe, should be a quarterback battle to watch as we go through the offseason. As a matter of fact, let's pivot to quarterbacks because 5 of our schools, all in the metro area, are replacing pretty substantial quarterbacks from a season ago. So Edmond Memorial will have to replace David McComb, who's their all-time leader in yards, touchdowns, and attempts. He's off to Kansas. Norman North will replace Owen Eshelman, who accounted for, get this, 6,666 total yards and 79 touchdowns in his 2 seasons as a starter for the Timberwolves. Deer Creek will be without Grady Adamson after his 3-year run as a starter, where he threw for over 7,500 passing yards. He's off to Georgia Tech. Moore replaces Malachi Miller, who ended up being the number 2 dual-threat quarterback in the state of Oklahoma. And Norman will replace 58 career touchdown passes from Phoenix Woodson. So let's start our discussion about this with this. Which team do you think is in the best spot to replace their outgoing quarterback?
I think best spot is either Norman North or Norman High, and I say that because they're very high on Nash Henry for Norman North, 6'3", 190, 2028 kid. He's young, but the talent is there. Throwing the football can make some things happen with his legs as well. And Norman High, they brought in 2 quarterbacks in the high school transfer portal, you can call it. Grayson May, Piedmont, he's coming in. Cash Kortner from Del City, he's coming in as well. And the thing with those 2 quarterbacks, they're both big. May at 6'3", 210. Kortner, 6'4", 183, excuse me. So 2 big quarterbacks that's going to be working in the offense for Norman High. Grayson May, he was in the wing T offense with Piedmont. We'll see how that adjustment is for him throwing the football, and Cash Kortner can sling it as well. So 2 quarterbacks coming in for the Tigers.
You could see this in a situation with Norman, similar to what Bixby did with their second quarterback, Cooper Parker, who backed up Carson Kirby, where Grayson May coming out of that wing T, if there's anything he's probably some sort of a dual threat at quarterback, particularly in short yardage and goal line situations. So that could be somewhere where you see both quarterbacks being worked in as well. I'll take this a different direction. How about Edmond Memorial replacing David McComb with Dawson Bulu this upcoming year? Again, apologies if I butchered that name, but there's a lot around here. When it comes to him, with returning receivers, transfer receiver comes in, you still are going to have some athletes in the backfield, and that defense is going to be solid. That's one of the defenses you should be excited about in terms of returners coming back. Defensive line, corner, linebackers coming back. Colton McComb's going to be a dog in that defense as well, whether he plays some kind of hybrid safety linebacker kind of thing like he did last year. So I think Edmond Memorial's in also a really, really good spot. Obviously, you don't expect Dawson to be David McComb because that's just a special character. But in terms of being able to work in a quarterback into a favorable situation, that would be one that I look at.
Yeah, it's a comfortable situation for Dawson Bolu. I mean, when you look at Isaac Woodard, what he did last year, we remember him against Union when he had that game-winning catch to win it on the road for the Bulldogs. And Cam Corals, we've talked about him in the last show, the new addition for them on the outside. So those are two big wide receivers that you have to worry about if you're a defense. And Nick Booker, big running back there. They'll use him in short yard situations as well. They used him a lot last year in the offense. So good spot for Bolu to come in, replacing McComb.
One of the interesting ones. Let's keep this conversation going because we still haven't dived into Deer Creek or Moore. Now, we've seen Maverick Gardner not play quarterback. He's played some receiver. He's played some safety. Now he slides over to quarterback. Deer Creek, on the other hand, could be a number of players that replace Grady Adamson. Gunnar Gibson was the second listed quarterback on their depth chart a season ago, but Casey Olmstead will be there. And then sophomore Dax Chansey, who starred on the freshman team last year. He's 6'7", by the way. As a 15, 16-year-old kid, which is scary. But that's going to be Wade Stanley's options in terms of replacing his quarterback who went to Georgia Tech. So in terms of Deer Creek or Moore, what intrigues you the most about a situation that we probably don't know too much about yet?
I'm interested to see what Deer Creek does because I love a mystery going to the season where we kind of have an idea when you look at our other schools about who the quarterback is going to be, but there's just unknown with Deer Creek. So once we get closer to the season, we'll see who grabs that for the Antlers. For Moore, Maverick Gardner, I mean, he's just an athlete on the field. We've seen him do quite a bit offensively. He gets involved in the punt returning game as well. He returned a punt for a touchdown last year for the Lions, so we'll see what he can do at quarterback. If you're Cameron Bennett, just you tell Maverick Gardner, just go out and make plays for us. I mean, that's what you got to do. Take care of the football and make plays offensively.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maverick Gardner is going to be interesting. We know he's a shortstop in baseball, so we know he can sling it. Now, can he sling a football similar to what Malachi Miller did? Obviously, time will tell. So here's the surprise of our show today, and the reason why we pushed the show back a day instead of our usual Wednesday release time. Norman North wide receiver and four-star prospect in the 2026 class, Mason James, has announced his commitment to the University of Washington as he chooses the Huskies and Jed Fish over the likes of Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas State, and others. He was a highly sought-after product, got offers from Alabama and others as well, but we will see a now Washington, oh my goodness, Washington Husky, a guy destined to play football in the Big Ten. We'll see him for Norman North this year, and Connor Pasby caught up with him at his commitment announcement.
All right, Mason, how's it feel to get this recruitment done? Because you've been a busy man and a big name in the 26 class.
Yeah. It's been a blessing for me. I really wouldn't say I really did stress it, but I really never hated the process. I mean, it's everything a kid could wish for. I know there's kids dying to get offers, so I'm really blessed. I thank God every day for this through this process. But it has been tough, and I'm really glad that's over and I found the perfect home for me.
We've seen it up close, but just tell the folks what kind of football player the Huskies are getting.
They're getting a dog. They're getting a hard worker on and off the field. They're getting an outside receiver, but they're also getting an inside receiver. So playing both inside and outside, and really great route runner speed, and really good strength, and really good ball tracking abilities.
Last thing for you, what's the mindset going to the senior season? Because you got a new signal caller, Nash Henry, and you're going to be the leader of this offense going to this year.
Yeah, so I'm almost like a coach on the field. I'm going to be one of the oldest guys on the field. So I really just help all the young guys every single day, day in and out. And that starts with practice. So practice hard. We're going to win games. Stick your face in the fan like Coach Jones always says. And hopefully it'll be a great program this year.
We've got Mason James off the board now in the 2026 recruiting cycle to Washington. You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, just for him as a player, man, he is electric. We've seen him get behind the defense. We've seen him The quick screens, he's just able to get 8 to 10 yards when it looks like you have him covered if you're a defense. Over 1,000 yards receiving, 17 touchdowns. And what he did against Owasso last year, I mean, that's a game that really stands out. If you want to see how good he is as a football player, you go watch him against Owasso. 11 catches for 262 yards and 5 touchdowns in that one for Mason James. He's just dangerous with the ball in the hands, and the Huskies are getting a heck of a football player.
Yeah, no doubt they are. And, Mason, he's going to be somebody that you potentially could throw in there, in his freshman year, just because of how slippery he is in some sort of packages. So it'll be interesting to see how Mason James meshes with Jed Fish and that staff up there in Washington. Congratulations to you, sir. And we can't wait to watch the senior season. By the way, Norman North, they got some players.
They do.
They got some players.
That's what it makes it easy for Nash Henry when you got Mason James on that side to throw the ball to.
Yeah, Ben Kolar, who's a fast-rising tight end. Yeah. Dano McMorris is the left tackle who's going to anchor that offensive line, committed to Minnesota a couple weeks ago as well. All right, that'll do it for this week's edition of the KREF High School Huddle here on this here YouTube channel. Remember, like and subscribe to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as this channel right here. That's Connor Pasby. I'm Grayson Singleton. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.